Courage is not something we are born with, nor is it a trait we acquire through a single moment of bravery. It's something we cultivate piece by piece, often through vulnerability and discomfort. The call to courage is not about being fearless, but about being willing to show up even when fear is present. It's about taking that first step into the unknown, the uncertain, and the imperfect, knowing that you're worthy of the journey, even when the path isn't clear. At the heart of courage is vulnerability. We are taught to shy away from vulnerability to shield ourselves from exposure. But the truth is, it's in these moments of rawness and openness that courage takes root. Vulnerability is the birthplace of growth, and every time we lean into it, we make space for deeper connections, richer experiences, and more powerful actions. Courage isn't just a personal pursuit, it's collective. It calls us to show up not just for ourselves, but for each other. It's the willingness to support one another through hard times, to lift each other up when the weight of the world feels unbearable, and to stand side by side in moments of adversity. This isn't a call to be perfect. It's a call to be real, to be honest about where we are, to be brave in our imperfections, and to keep moving forward together. The call to courage asks us to face the parts of ourselves that we hide away, the doubts, the fears, the insecurities, and to love ourselves fully through them. It's in embracing our whole selves, not just the shiny parts, that we find the strength to act with integrity and authenticity. Every time we choose courage, we become a little braver, a little stronger, a little more connected to the truth of who we are. It's easy to focus on the moments when courage looks like standing on a stage, making a big decision, or facing something terrifying. But courage is just as powerful in the small, everyday choices we make, the willingness to speak up when it's easier to stay quiet, to ask for help when we need it, to apologize when we've hurt someone, or to set boundaries that protect our well-being. Every time we choose courage in these small moments, we are reinforcing the muscles that carry us through the big ones. Courage doesn't require perfection, and it doesn't need a grand stage. It thrives in the everyday moments when we choose to show up authentically, even when it's uncomfortable. It's a commitment to living with intention, to embracing our vulnerability, and to trusting that we are enough just as we are. In the face of uncertainty, it is this unwavering belief in ourselves, our worth, and our ability to move through the challenges that calls us to act, to love, and to live boldly. Courage and vulnerability are inextricably linked. Many people mistakenly believe that courage is the absence of fear or weakness. They imagine it as standing strong, unshaken, and impenetrable. Yet true courage is born in the moments when we are willing to embrace uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. At its core, courage requires us to step into vulnerability, not shy away from it. Vulnerability often gets a bad reputation. It's commonly associated with weakness or fragility, as though showing our true selves might diminish our strength. But in reality, vulnerability is the birthplace of courage, creativity, connection, and love. Without it, we remain in our comfort zones, unable to take the risks that lead to growth, meaningful relationships, and transformation. Think about the moments in life that have required the most courage. Perhaps it was expressing your feelings to someone, pursuing a dream despite the possibility of failure, or speaking up for what you believed in even when others disagreed. These actions required you to be vulnerable to expose your true thoughts, feelings, or intentions without any guarantee of a favorable outcome. It's in these moments when the stakes are high and the future uncertain that courage emerges. Acknowledging vulnerability takes immense strength. It's far easier to build walls, hide behind masks, or avoid situations where we might feel exposed. But these strategies, while they may feel protective in the short term, limit our ability to fully engage with life. Courage calls us to tear down those walls and to trust that we are capable of facing whatever comes our way, even if it's difficult or painful. When we embrace vulnerability, we give ourselves permission to be seen as we truly are. This means acknowledging not only our strengths, but also our fears, insecurities, and doubts. It's in this raw, unguarded state that we connect most deeply with others. When someone sees us for who we are and accepts us without judgment, the bonds that form are powerful and transformative. And it's these connections that fuel our courage to keep moving forward. Fear is a natural companion to vulnerability. When we open ourselves up, we risk rejection, failure, or criticism. It's tempting to avoid vulnerability altogether to escape these potential outcomes. But avoiding vulnerability also means avoiding opportunities for growth and fulfillment. Without vulnerability, we can't experience the triumph of overcoming challenges, the joy of deep connection, or the satisfaction of living authentically. Courage doesn't require us to eliminate fear. It asks us to act despite it. When we acknowledge our fear but choose to show up anyway, we demonstrate incredible bravery. Vulnerability is not about being reckless or unguarded. It's about making conscious, intentional choices to engage with life fully, even when it feels risky. Courage born from vulnerability manifests in countless ways. It could be as simple as sharing your opinion in a meeting, or as life-changing as starting a new career, ending a toxic relationship, or admitting you need help. Each of these actions requires you to step outside your comfort zone and face the unknown. And while the outcome may not always be what you hoped for, the act of showing up with vulnerability is a victory in itself. Consider the example of someone pursuing a passion project. Perhaps they've always wanted to write a book, start a business, or create art. The act of putting their ideas into the world means exposing themselves to criticism, rejection, or failure. But it also opens the door to connection, recognition, and success. Without vulnerability, that door remains closed and the dream stays unfulfilled. In leadership, vulnerability is often seen as a liability, but it is one of the most powerful tools a leader can possess. A leader who acknowledges their humanity, admitting mistakes, asking for help, or showing empathy creates a culture of trust and openness. This kind of environment fosters innovation, collaboration, and resilience within a team. Employees feel valued and supported, which inspires them to take risks and bring their best selves to their work. Courageous leaders understand that vulnerability isn't about oversharing or appearing weak, it's about authenticity. By being honest about their challenges and uncertainties, they model the courage they want to see in their teams. This ripple effect can transform organizations and communities. When we embrace vulnerability, we open ourselves to a richer, more fulfilling life. It's not always easy. Vulnerability can be uncomfortable, even painful at times. But the rewards far outweigh the risks. Vulnerability allows us to experience deeper love, stronger connections, and a greater sense of purpose. It helps us build resilience, as every time we face our fears and push through, we become stronger and more confident. Moreover, vulnerability is essential for personal growth. It pushes us to confront our limitations and expand beyond them. It teaches us to trust ourselves and to have faith in our ability to navigate life's challenges. Through vulnerability, we learn that we are capable of more than we ever imagined. To cultivate courage through vulnerability, we must first change the way we view it. Instead of seeing vulnerability as a weakness, we must recognize it as a strength. This shift in perspective allows us to approach life with greater openness and bravery. Here are a few ways to embrace vulnerability in your daily life. Be kind to yourself when you feel exposed or uncertain. Recognize that vulnerability is a natural part of being human. Start by stepping outside your comfort zone in manageable ways. Each small act of vulnerability builds your courage for larger challenges. Surround yourself with people who value and respect your authenticity. Safe. Supportive relationships make it easier to embrace vulnerability. Acknowledge and celebrate your willingness to show up, even when it's hard. Remember, the act of trying is a testament to your courage. Look back on moments when you embraced vulnerability and consider how they contributed to your growth and resilience. By leaning into vulnerability, we unlock the courage to face life's challenges, build meaningful connections, and live authentically. In doing so, we discover that true strength lies not in avoiding risk or hiding our flaws, but in embracing every part of ourselves and showing up fully, even when it feels uncertain. Vulnerability is often misunderstood in our society, many associated with weakness, failure, or a lack of control. We're conditioned to build walls around our emotions, to hide our insecurities, and to mask our fears. But the truth is that vulnerability is not a weakness, it's the most accurate measure of courage. It's in those moments when we allow ourselves to be truly seen, when we step into uncertainty without guarantees of success or acceptance, that we tap into the transformative power of growth. At its core, vulnerability is about risk, emotional exposure, and uncertainty. It's the willingness to engage in life's messiness, to lean into situations where the outcome is unknown, and to embrace the possibility of failure. This openness, though daunting, is where growth happens. When we let go of the illusion of control and perfection, we make space for learning, connection, and innovation. Without vulnerability, there is no progress, only stagnation behind the safety of our self-imposed barriers. Consider the most significant moments of growth in your life. Perhaps it was pursuing a new career path, building a meaningful relationship, or sharing your story with others. Each of these milestones likely required stepping into a vulnerable space. You may have feared rejection, failure, or judgment, but in taking that risk, you open the door to growth. Vulnerability demands that we shed the armor we use to protect ourselves and instead approach life with authenticity. Growth through vulnerability isn't just about taking risks, it's about being willing to fail and learning from those failures. It's not a linear path. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and times when the vulnerability feels unbearable. But every stumble teaches us resilience. Every time we choose to rise again after falling, we grow stronger, wiser, and more connected to our inner strength. The failures we fear often become the very stepping stones that lead to our greatest successes. Moreover, vulnerability is the foundation of meaningful human connection. We all long to be seen and accepted for who we truly are, but this can only happen when we are willing to let others in. Vulnerability creates a bridge between people, allowing for empathy, compassion, and trust to flourish. When we are open about our struggles, fears, and hopes, we give others permission to do the same. This shared humanity is what binds us and creates relationships that withstand the test of time. In professional settings, vulnerability is equally vital. It's the driving force behind creativity and innovation. When we step into vulnerability, we give ourselves the freedom to think outside the box, to experiment, and to present ideas without fear of judgment. Leaders who model vulnerability inspire trust and create environments where teams feel safe to contribute, collaborate, and grow. They understand that vulnerability is not about oversharing or weakness. It's about leading with authenticity and fostering a culture of openness. Vulnerability also plays a crucial role in self-awareness. When we embrace our vulnerable moments, we confront the parts of ourselves that we often try to hide, the doubts, fears, and insecurities. Instead of running from them, we learn to sit with them, to understand them, and to grow through them. This inner work helps us build confidence and clarity about who we are and what we want. It reminds us that our worth is not tied to our achievements or the approval of others, but is inherent in our being. Embracing vulnerability is not without its challenges. The fear of judgment or failure can be paralyzing. Society often praises invulnerability, stoicism, self-reliance, and the appearance of having it all together. But this facade comes at a cost. It isolates us, stifles our growth, and keeps us from experiencing the fullness of life. Vulnerability, on the other hand, frees us from these constraints. It allows us to live authentically, even when it's uncomfortable. The journey toward embracing vulnerability begins with small steps. It might mean having an honest conversation about your feelings, asking for help when you need it, or taking a chance on something that matters to you. Over time, these moments of courage build upon one another, creating a life rooted in authenticity and resilience. Vulnerability also requires us to practice self-compassion. Growth isn't about achieving perfection, but about making progress. It's okay to feel scared, to falter, and to doubt yourself. What matters is that you keep showing up. By being kind to yourself, you create an inner environment where growth can thrive. Vulnerability is the source of growth because it forces us to confront our fears and move beyond them. It teaches us that strength is not about avoiding pain or failure, but about facing them head on and emerging more resilient. It reminds us that life's greatest rewards, connection, purpose, and fulfillment lie on the other side of discomfort. When we embrace vulnerability, we discover that we are capable of more than we ever imagined. We learn to trust ourselves, to build deeper relationships, and to create lives that reflect our true values and aspirations. It is through this courageous openness that we grow into the best versions of ourselves. Courage is often imagined as a dramatic, larger-than-life act, a heroic leap into danger, a groundbreaking invention, or a world-changing speech. While these grand displays of bravery are undeniably powerful, they are not the full story. Courage, at its core, is built in the small, everyday choices we make. It is woven into the fabric of daily life, shaping the way we respond to challenges, the way we connect with others, and the way we show up for ourselves. In a world that celebrates big wins and public victories, it's easy to overlook the quiet, unassuming acts of courage that occur behind the scenes. Yet these small moments are often the most significant because they lay the foundation for who we are and who we aspire to be. The willingness to face the discomfort of a hard conversation, to admit when we've made a mistake, or to take the first step toward a daunting goal. These choices may seem minor in the moment, but they are what build the muscle of courage over time. One of the most common opportunities for everyday courage arises in situations where silence feels safer. It might be the moment when someone makes an offhand comment that doesn't sit right with you, or when you see an injustice but fear the repercussions of speaking out. Choosing to voice your thoughts, even when it's uncomfortable, is an act of bravery. It requires vulnerability, the risk of rejection, and the possibility of standing alone. It's in these moments of speaking up, whether for yourself or others, that courage grows. Speaking up doesn't always have to be confrontational. It can also look like sharing your ideas in a meeting when you're unsure how they'll be received, or expressing your feelings in a personal relationship when you fear misunderstanding. These moments remind us that courage isn't about the absence of fear, it's about acting despite it. Another powerful act of everyday courage is the willingness to ask for help. In a culture that often equates independence with strength, reaching out for support can feel like admitting weakness. But the truth is, asking for help is one of the most courageous things we can do. It requires us to set aside our pride, acknowledge our limitations, and trust others with our vulnerabilities. Whether it's asking a colleague for assistance on a project, seeking advice from a mentor, or leaning on a friend during a tough time, these moments of connection build resilience. They remind us that we don't have to navigate life alone and that strength can be found in collaboration and community. There is immense courage in saying, "I'm sorry." It takes humility to acknowledge when we've hurt someone, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and to take responsibility for our actions. Apologizing requires us to confront our imperfections and to prioritize healing over ego. Owning our mistakes isn't just about mending relationships, it's also about personal growth. Each time we choose to face our shortcomings head on, we strengthen our capacity for accountability and integrity. These are not just acts of courage, they are acts of love for ourselves and for those around us. Setting boundaries is another example of how courage shows up in our daily lives. It can be challenging to say no, to advocate for our needs, or to distance ourselves from people or situations that drain us. Yet, these actions are essential for maintaining our mental, emotional, and physical health. Boundaries are an expression of self-respect and self-awareness. They demonstrate a willingness to prioritize what truly matters and to protect our energy so that we can show up fully in other areas of our lives. Each time we set a boundary, we reinforce the belief that our well-being is worth safeguarding, a profoundly courageous stance in a world that often demands constant availability and sacrifice. In a society that often pressures us to conform, showing up as our authentic selves can feel like an act of rebellion. Whether it's expressing a deeply held belief, pursuing a passion that others don't understand, or simply being honest about who we are, authenticity requires bravery. The fear of judgment or rejection can be paralyzing, but every time we choose authenticity, we reaffirm our worth. We remind ourselves that we are not defined by others' opinions, but by our own values and truths. This kind of courage, choosing to be seen as we are, is transformative. It creates space for genuine connections and inspires others to embrace their authenticity as well. These small, everyday choices may not seem significant in isolation, but they are the building blocks of a courageous life. Just as physical strength is developed through consistent exercise, emotional and mental strength are cultivated through repeated acts of bravery. Each time we face a small fear or take a tiny step out of our comfort zone, we expand our capacity to handle bigger challenges. Over time, these small acts of courage create a ripple effect. They build confidence, foster resilience, and empower us to tackle larger fears and uncertainties. The courage to speak up at a meeting can lead to the courage to advocate for systemic change. The courage to ask for help in a personal struggle can lead to the courage to seek support in a professional setting. Each act reinforces the belief that we are capable, that we can face fear and come out stronger on the other side. What makes these small acts of courage so powerful is their consistency. While grand gestures may be rare, everyday choices happen continuously. They give us countless opportunities to practice bravery, to learn from our missteps, and to grow. Over time, these moments accumulate, shaping us into people who are not only brave in the big moments, but in the everyday ones as well. In the end, courage is less about extraordinary moments and more about the ordinary decisions we make every day. It's in the way we choose to live, to love, and to show up even when it's hard. By embracing these small acts of bravery, we build a life that reflects our values, honors our authenticity, and empowers us to face whatever comes our way. When we think of courage, we often imagine it as a solitary act, an individual standing up against adversity, fighting for a cause, or facing their fears alone. But courage is rarely a solo journey. It thrives in community connection and shared experiences. Courage, at its core, is a collective effort that brings people together, strengthening bonds and creating ripples of bravery that extend far beyond a single person. At its heart, courage is relational. We draw strength from the people around us, whether it's the support of a loved one, the encouragement of a mentor, or the solidarity of a group. No one navigates the challenges of life entirely on their own. Even the bravest among us rely on the shared energy, wisdom, and compassion of others. When we face fear or uncertainty, knowing we have a community to lean on makes it easier to step into the unknown. Communities create space for vulnerability, and in vulnerability, courage is born. When we share our fears, struggles, and hopes with others, we find reassurance that we are not alone. This connection empowers us to face our challenges with greater confidence. A supportive network reminds us that even if we stumble, there will be people ready to catch us, guide us, and help us rise again. Courage is contagious. When one person dares to be brave, it inspires others to do the same. Think about the courage it takes for someone to speak up in a meeting, admit a mistake, or share a deeply personal story. These acts of bravery often pave the way for others to step forward and share their own truths. This domino effect transforms individuals into a collective force of resilience and strength. History offers countless examples of how collective courage has changed the world. Civil rights movements, revolutions, and social justice campaigns were built on the foundation of shared bravery. It wasn't just one person fighting for change, it was communities, united by a common purpose, standing together in the face of injustice. When courage becomes a collective effort, it amplifies its impact, making what seemed impossible suddenly achievable. One of the most significant ways we demonstrate collective courage is by supporting one another in times of fear and uncertainty. It's not just about being brave for ourselves, it's about being brave for others. This might mean standing up for someone who is being mistreated, lending a hand to a friend in need, or simply being present and listening when someone is struggling. When we offer our support, we create an environment where others feel safe to be vulnerable. This safety fosters bravery. People are more likely to take risks, pursue their dreams, or confront their fears when they know they have a safety net of encouragement and understanding. Collective courage is especially powerful in leadership and team dynamics. Leaders who model vulnerability and authenticity inspire their teams to do the same. They create a culture where it's okay to take risks, make mistakes, and learn from them. This kind of environment fosters innovation, creativity, and resilience. In teams, collective courage looks like collaboration, open communication, and mutual trust. It's about standing together in tough times and celebrating victories as a group. When everyone feels valued and supported, the team as a whole becomes more courageous and capable of tackling challenges. With collective courage comes responsibility. It's not just about drawing strength from others, it's about offering strength in return. This means showing up for the people in our lives, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. It means being willing to have difficult conversations, hold others accountable, and stand up for what's right. Collective courage also requires us to recognize our interconnectedness. Our actions or inactions impact the people around us. When we choose courage, we not only empower ourselves, but also inspire and uplift those who witness our bravery. Conversely, when we shy away from courage, we miss opportunities to create positive change for others. To foster collective courage, we must cultivate environments where vulnerability and authenticity are celebrated. This starts with truly listening to the voices around us. It involves creating spaces where people feel seen, heard, and valued. It means acknowledging and respecting diverse perspectives, even when they challenge our own. Collective courage also requires empathy. We must strive to understand and support one another, especially in moments of fear or pain. Empathy strengthens connections, and these connections provide the foundation for collective bravery. When courage is shared, its impact extends far beyond the immediate circle of those involved. Acts of collective courage create ripples that touch lives in ways we may never fully see. A kind word, a gesture of support, or a moment of solidarity can inspire someone to take their own courageous step, and their actions can, in turn, inspire others. This ripple effect reminds us that courage is not a finite resource. The more we share it, the more it grows. By choosing to be brave together, we contribute to a world where courage is the norm rather than the exception. Courage is not an isolated act, it's a shared journey. It calls us to recognize our connection to others and to use that connection as a source of strength. When we show up for one another with empathy, support, and vulnerability, we amplify our collective ability to face challenges, create change, and build a more courageous world. Courage is not just about me or you, it's about us. Together, we are braver than we could ever be alone. When we think of courage, we often picture acts of heroism or moments of grand bravery standing up for others, leaping into action, or making bold decisions in the face of adversity. But at its core, courage isn't rooted in perfection or fearlessness. It's rooted in embracing imperfection and showing up as we truly are, flaws and all. Society has long championed the idea that success, acceptance, and worthiness are tied to being perfect. We are bombarded with images, standards, and expectations that tell us we must look a certain way, act a certain way, and achieve specific milestones to be valued. This relentless pursuit of perfection creates a culture of fear, failure, judgment, rejection. But courage asks us to step away from this illusion. It challenges us to see that perfection is not the goal, it's a barrier. It is in our imperfections, in our willingness to show up authentically and honestly, that courage truly thrives.